Hey everybody, how's it going? Another little Ideamaker tips and tricks video. This one's going to be about orienting your part and even slicing your part, like physically slicing your part, um, to cut down on print time, material cost, all that good stuff, while still providing a good quality part. So I had this situation come up. One of the mechanical engineers at work had designed this bracket, and for prototyping, he has a printer at the office, but isn't very good at it, to his own admission. And so he was sending them off and having these things done in various different materials, including SLS, so the laser sintering, right, with powder. And with this particular part, when it was coming out all warped when they gave it back to him. And so I said, yeah, next time just throw me the part. Let me try it on my machine for whatever, because I really wanted to see if I could get a good tolerance, get a good part and keep it within tolerance, and I did. So I printed this part in PETG, and it was a very challenging part for a couple different reasons. So you can see it's not laying flat on the bed because you have the standoff here, and it's got lots of features on top. It's got this little springy mechanism here. With the little tabby tongue thing, right? So this thing's going to go like that, and it's got a couple of tabs here, lots of through holes and lots of features and all that good stuff. But then you flip it over, and you have even more. And so you've got a lot more standoffs, and you have these rails that are sticking up. But still, right, if you try and print it laying flat in one of these orientations, it ain't going to look too hot. You're going to have support material all over the place, especially something like that, so it's going to really look like crap. So then I take a look at, well, let's just stand it up on end. Let's print it like a lithophane, and see how it goes. Now, I was pretty confident that the printer would do these smaller standoffs no problem. That's not a very big challenge. This little nub belly button Audi, that would have been an issue, and probably these, and definitely when you get around to this side, because I was going to print this in PETG, remember, so running hot, very little fan, so bridging is not good, which means I would have had to do support. Would have had to print this with a brim and with support all over the place. So if I show you that, let's look at adding support through this whole thing. So all yellow, all support, would have been crazy. It would have done it. I'm confident it would have done it. This would have been just like any other lithophane, except with support. And it's PETG, so it would have been a pain to remove, and it probably would have been pseudo ugly, at least on this surface. So let's slice it real fast and see what happens. We'll just use my basic profile, 100% infill, 3 shells. That's what I did with this one, and it would have been with a brim, but I'll leave it. Just leave it apples to apples here. Won't even mess with it. Just leave the supports on. Oops. Supports, all, save, slice. Let's see what it says. So 15 hours this print would have taken, and I would have been stressing the whole time on this part, if it was going to knock itself over, all this stringy goop with PETG. This would have been a stressful print, and it wouldn't have looked too hot. So here's what I did. Got a little bit creative with it, and I used some of the tools that are already built in Ideamaker, so I didn't have to go export this out to like Mesh Mixer and Plane Cut and do a bunch of stuff. All of those tools are already built into Ideamaker. So let's clear out those supports. Let's put this thing back the way it was, which is just like in this orientation here. And so now what I'm going to do is I want this part to be able to print with the most surface area down on the bed as possible, because I know I can get a good first layer, especially with PETG. And as long as I get a couple of good first layers and finished top layers, I knew I could present a pretty good looking part. So here we go. Here it is. Again, this thing's floating in the air. So we're going to go to our plane cut tool, and I knew that I needed this 18.3 millimeters. That's where I needed my cut. And I knew that because I used the cross-section tool. So let's look at cross-section real fast. If you go to View, Model, and Cross-Section, right, you get your little cross-section tool here, and if we just drag this guy to about there, and you hit Enable, so you can now see a cross-section of that portion of your part. And so I knew that I wanted to come just under, I wanted the bottom of that tab to be the first layer of my print. And so I basically just did some really just trial and error to find out where to do the plane cut. But that cross-section tool is really slick. So I mean, you can move this wherever you want and get a good view of the whole part. So I did that. So let's go back over here to FreeCut. Oh, let's get rid of this. Let's turn that enable off. Let's go back to FreeCut. So again, I knew that I needed 18.3 millimeters in my Z to cut this thing. So there's my cut. I say start cut. Now I have two parts. So with this, I really have, if I export this, I will have two STLs, which you can do in Ideamaker. Bet you didn't maybe know that. Maybe you did. I don't know. So now let's arrange. Let's zoom this out a little bit. So I'm going to put this guy flat on the bed because he's exactly how I want him. He's got a nice flat side. There's no standoffs. There's no nothing I got to worry about there from a support perspective. So I'm going to stick him right on the platform. And now all I'm going to do is, same thing. Now I've got this nice flat surface all over this part to print. So now all I'm going to do is flip him over. And bada bing, bada boom. I don't have any supports to deal with. I know I'm going to get at least a couple of good layers on either one. This one is going to be really thin, but I got two good layers at 0.2 millimeters. So, you know, almost a half a millimeter thick. But again, what I'm going to do is once these were done, was pull them off the bed and glue them back together. So I didn't need something super thick because it was all going to be one part anyway. And then the only other nightmare piece of this, which really wasn't that bad, was this little tabby right here. I knew he was going to print separate because he's a separate body, even though he's part of the model. It does print as a separate body. So basically, once it printed, I popped him off and I fusion welded him back onto the little tab on the opposite side of this guy because that's where he's meant to go inside of the part. So let's slice him. Slice. We need no support. Save and close. Slice. And so 9 hours, 33 minutes. So that's a pretty big difference. Remember the first one where it was going to be standing up with a whole bunch of support was going to be 15 plus hours. So those two parts together, printing down, this is a much less stressful print. And I'm pretty sure I hit the button on this, watched the first or part of the first layer go down, and I went to bed. Came back the next morning, glued them together, took them to work, and bang, done. So anyway, there you go. There's your tip. So get creative with how you want to slice your part. If you've got something awkward that's got features hanging off on both sides, and you really are sort of losing your mind on how best to orient the print, just try and minimize your support. Because I mean, support's good when it needs to be good, right? But in cases like this, man, that would have been a nightmare to remove. It would have made that whole one part of the surface probably pseudo crappy. Not something I would have been super comfortable without a lot of post-processing work like sanding and painting and stuff. I wouldn't have wanted to give that to my customer. Doing it like this, like I said, peeled them off the bed, glued them together. I fusion welded the seam with my soldering iron around the side, welded that one little tabby part back on, this little guy, and I was done. So now, just in case you wanted to, let's say you had a different part like, I don't know, a helmet that you wanted to split up into a bunch of pieces, but all you got was the one big helmet file from Thingiverse. Well, now you can slice it up, and then you can export each one of those parts individually. So if I had this part and I have this part, if all you want to do, you can go over here to File and Export, and you can export this as part 1. I'm just going to throw it on the desktop. Save. Yep. And then same thing, File, Export. Part 2, desktop, and you see they're saving as STL files. Yep. So now you can, I actually did this in 2 goes. Did I? I can't remember if I printed this. No, I did. I printed them in 2 shots because this one only took a couple hours to print. This guy took like 7 hours to print. So, so I put him on the SD card, put him on the CR10, put this one on the SD card. Turned right around, printed him on the CR10. So pretty slick. But there you go. So those STL files are now, you've got two models split out of one, and you can export those. See, so the beauty of this is, you say, but Mark, I love S3D and I love Kira. Great. Now you got 2 models You can go print using those, because you can't do this in Cura or S3D. Now, like, they both have their, I have said it once, I'll say it again, right? Ideamaker I use 90% of the time, 95% of the time really, and I use Cura and S3D for one-offs, for the features that Ideamaker doesn't have yet. But you can't do that slicing and dicing like we just did in S3D. You'd have to take that part, you'd have to sink it into the bed, 18.3 millimeters, slice your model, right? Export that file. Then you'd have to bring it back, reorient it, flip it over, sink it into the bed, do the whole thing over again, and still you still have the one file. Same thing with Cura. You have to sink it into the bed, and there's unless they've added features that I don't know about, which I don't think they have, because I kind of stay up on that crap. You don't have the same level of control. So again, if you only used Ideamaker for that, it's worth the free tool. So anyway, it sounds like I'm selling Ideamaker for $99.95. Dude, it's free. Go get it. But it's an awesome tool. Even if you don't use it to print, you can use it for that model manipulation. So anyway, hope you enjoyed it. Thumbs up if you liked it. Subscribe if you're new. I keep saying I'm going to do one once a week, and it always ends up being way longer. But I'm sorry. I'll keep trying. There you go. See ya.